Hey everybody, Stephen Boyd, the Student Engagement Agent of SB Entertainment and SB Consultant Group. I hope that we're finding you pleasant today and your day has been going well. I want to take a few moments first to recap our wonderful experience that we had at the Maryland Association of Elementary School Principals on last week. It was astounding. Of course, we had an opportunity to share some of our groundbreaking information on student engagement. I'm not bad, I'm just bored. We are of the belief that students that we are classifying as bad or perhaps bored, and that boredom leads to disengagement. And when it leads to disengagement, it leads to misbehavior. And misbehavior leads to being sent out of the office, out of school suspension, in school suspension, and the like. So if we go back in that reverse order and we ramp up the engagement and the rigor, some might say make class more fun. Okay, if that's perhaps your conclusion, we don't find anything wrong with that as long as we can measure the learning. When we can measure the learning and take students from where they are to where they need to be, then we are doing our job as practitioners and engaging them in a meaningful way. So we're not talking about unmeaningful learning. We're talking about very meaningful learning. But I want to talk to you as we're working on some new information that we're going to share that's going to be perhaps in a book form or also in a workbook form. And that's going to be called The Essence of Great Teaching. And I just want to talk about one of the ingredients in that essence that is a product of great teaching. The first one I want to talk about is called preparation. Preparation. So if we were to use an analogy of good cooking, one ingredient that a teacher needs to have is preparation. But we're going to look at three sub ingredients of that great cooking. One is going to be mental prep. Another one is going to be lesson prep. And the third is going to be physical prep. Again, mental prep, lesson prep, and physical prep. Well, what is mental prep? Mental prep is the mental ability to, number one, think about where students need to go in terms of learning, and then some back mapping. Some of you have heard the understanding by design concept, but not necessarily in that form where we're talking about the lesson and unit planning. That's going to be our next point that we're going to make. But the lesson prep, the mental prep with respect to, number one, knowing who my students are. Number two, knowing their learning needs. And then number three, learning how to present the information so they can absorb the learning easily. And I say easily, not because perhaps your concepts are easy or the content is easy, but what would be the most digestible way for my students to be able to take that knowledge and actually apply it and use it in a meaningful way. That takes some mental prep on our part. And so the question becomes, how much time do we take as practitioners to really think about who our students are, what their learning needs are, and how to deliver that instruction? The second part of preparation is the lesson prep. And of course, this is a thing that most of us are familiar with. Writing the lesson plan down, write the lesson plan down, whether that be a very thorough lesson plan, whether you do block plans, whether you do an outline, having some kind of uniform guide that allows you to pace yourself to take the students from where they are to where they need to be. Lesson plan is very important because, of course, anything that's written down, you're making a contract with your mind. I'm going to say that again because I truly believe that when you write things down, you make a contract with your mind. And so if we start with a unit, and a unit is paced out in several days, and then it may have model lessons in it, or you may decide to do your own lessons. Perhaps you work in a team where a couple of people will design lessons within the team and share those lessons. Now, there are schools out there that do that. I've taught and done professional development at some of those schools where this teacher does science and that teacher does ELA, and this teacher does social studies and another teacher does math. And the teachers that teach those subjects rotate each other's lesson plans. I understand that from a time perspective. But when we get back to that mental prep piece, I would caution those teachers from doing that consistently for this reason. You don't bring your own brain to the audience that you serve. You and I don't bring our own brain when Miss So-and-so besides me has done the math lesson, I've done the social studies lesson, we swapped each other's lessons, all right, when our children rotate, or if we are grouped homogeneously, and I'm going to have those kids all day, and we're swapping lessons. Am I really unpacking my brain mentally, and then the lesson prep that needs to be done? Have I brought my creativity to that lesson prep in terms of that preparation? So the second ingredient within preparation is the lesson prep. And then thirdly is the physical prep. And this is really thinking through how we need to arrange our room, how the environment needs to be laid out in such a way that our students can absorb the knowledge and receive us as the facilitators of that knowledge. So yes, windows need to be considered, temperature needs to be considered, smells and scents needs to be considered, the type of music, if you use music, needs to be considered. Then you get into seating charts with respect to the chemistry of students and what students can or cannot be with each other, how you need to do seating arrangements, whether you're going to do single activities or group activities, triads, quads, and dyads, all those kinds of things. So when we talk about the physical environment, while some of us would probably want to manipulate our environments in different ways, we have to take what we've been given. But we don't lack the creativity to bring our own brain to that environment and manipulate it to make it our own in the best interest of our kids. That's a little bit of what we're going to share in this particular quadrant as we talk about the essence of great teaching. And so we're working on that as a product, and we're working on that as perhaps a book in the future. So look for that to come from SB Entertainment and SB Consulting Group. Take these nuggets, perhaps share this. I'm Stephen Boyd, the Student Engagement Agent. Help me drive boredom out of the classroom. Take care. Bye-bye.